Tata Martino calling up 31 players for games against Colombia and Peru coming up next week. We got all the big European-based players. Still no Chicharito. Hector Herrera, the only MLS-based player left in this squad of 31 called up for the big games coming up against South American competition next week. All right, Herc, who is the biggest name for you that's been left off this list? Because you got to figure, right? If you're not in the list of 31 2 months out of the World Cup, you're not going to the World Cup.
That's a bitter pill.
Yeah.
That's a bitter pill to take. 31 names and you're not on it. It's
over.
Yeah, it could very well be over. It's Julián Araujo. Let me tell you why Julián Araujo. He may not be the biggest name there, but when you tie in the recruitment that was of Julián Araujo and how he went to the Mexican national team, and at this point was the only Mexican American actually getting any consistent call-ups and a little playing time. Part of that World Cup qualifying process, very slim part of that, but was part of that. Then actually starts a game in the Nations League just recently. And as far as a week ago, was, quote from Fabrizio Romano, in the orbit of Barcelona. From being in the rumor mill of Barcelona Football Club to being on the outside looking in of 31 players in the Mexican national team, that's a gut punch.
Yeah.
That one hurts for Julián. That one hurts for a lot of people. To say Jorge Sanchez is Ajax right now, you can't play over him, I will buy that. But Kevin Alvarez and Julián Araujo have similar resumes when it comes to the Mexican national team. The only difference is Julián was part of that World Cup qualifying process.
Yeah, I think it's big that it's at right back too, because that very much was a position of need. When Julián Araujo made the choice to go to Mexico, we all thought, okay, he's going to Mexico because there's less competition at that spot
right?
in the U.S. Do you think he'll look back at this, or those in his orbit will look back at this now and say they made a mistake picking Mexico over the U.S. because the goal is always to get to the World Cup, isn't it?
The goal for any footballer is the World Cup. But this gets tricky when we speak about identity, because you're asking players to identify themselves as Mexican, identify as American, and it gets murky. If he made a sporting decision because he thought it would be easier to play in the Mexican national team, you've got to live with that. There are no regrets there. You can't make decisions for that. It's a fight that's still not over, as slim as it may look. A week ago, he was on that Barcelona radar. Tomorrow, we don't know. Things can change.
Yeah. We use the word surprise here. For me, in some part, it was disappointment, right? Now, I think there's a big disappointment that Julián Araujo is not in. I think some of the other guys you saw there, Marcelo Flores, Sebastian Córdoba, Rodolfo Pizarro, who at one point on this show called the most talented Mexican player
4 years ago when he was
of his generation.
Forgot how he killed the U.S. men's national team in the final of the Gold Cup?
For me, if we're going to use the word surprise, it has to be Carlos Acevedo, the goalie for Santos. I think there's 2 points that kind of irk me with this one. One, I think he's, for me, a top 3 goalie. I don't even think that's really in the discussion. But even if you want to put that aside, I would love to feel like Tata Martino at least cares, or even pretends to care, just a little bit about the future of the Mexican national team. Rodolfo Cota, 35. Talavera, 39. Memo Ochoa, 38. Right? All those guys are going to be 40 at the next World Cup. Carlos Acevedo, what, 25, 26 years old? I mean, he's right in his prime. This is a young goalie who's playing well, who scored a goal over the weekend, by the way, in Liga MX, and he can't get a call-up as a third guy. Who's going to be the goalie in 2026?
Yeah, a few things. I've heard so much as like, well, they want leadership. Who's the captain of Santos?
Yeah.
It's Acevedo. There's leadership right there. And this is the one thing that irks me with this about Carlos Acevedo. You talk about the future. If you're going to give a player their first taste of national team responsibility, and it's at the age of 30 in the World Cup, you're going backwards as a national team.
You told me to let it go earlier in the show, but you know who should really be the biggest surprise not on El Tri's list? Who? Javier Chicharito Hernandez. There it is. We got him mentioned twice.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.